And today we're focusing on leadership with respect to the dilemmas. Do you have any dilemmas that you come across, or you want to put it front to see how we, from a leadership point of view, deal with that? Or maybe you have something from your own life that's a dilemma?
I can't understand what is dilemma.
A dilemma is a very, very hard choice. For example, imagine you are leading a firm and you have to cut back on staff, and then you have to pick out who is going to be the one to stay and who are going to be the ones to go. So how would that, how would you make that decision? That's a dilemma.
I think it's very interesting and difficult question, and
that's what a dilemma is.
I should have.
So what are your first thoughts about this?
How do you pick one to fire or to let go of?
To fire, maybe.
Do you understand the question?
I'm not able to understand the question completely.
Let's make it very concrete then. So imagine for a moment you start a company together with one of your best friends, and you find out that because of the economic situation, you have to cut back, and you are faced with the hard choice, the dilemma, whether or not you're going to fire this person. Would you fire your best friend if that does make economic sense?
Fire. I cannot say what is.
Oh, firing means that you terminate his job, so he has to leave the company then.
What can I say?
You are experiencing exactly what defines a dilemma. It's hard because you can say yes or you can say no, and you would never know what is the right answer. So this is the hard part about leadership. This is why we focus on dilemmas, hard choices today, because the higher up a company you go, the tougher the decisions that you will be making.
Yeah, I think I should find out about this topic from the internet, and maybe in the next time I can answer.
Probably it's also very useful to stay and hang around and listen to our other guests and Natalie and I exchanging thoughts on this, because we'll give you some more insights on what they are, typical dilemmas, as well as how to deal with them from a leadership point of view. And already preluding to that, you will find that because you will never have the right answer, making a decision is the first step. Whether it's going to be yes or no, left or right, making a decision is what a leader should be doing. So thank you for your contribution. If it's all right with you, we'd like to listen to one of our next guests.
Sherry would like to jump in.
So thank you, and please stay around, and good luck on your journey towards better leadership.
And we hope you will be listening and chatting from a sidebar.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Okay, Sherry, would you like to be the next? Oh. Now I think, yay. We're waiting for Sherry.
Hi, Sherry.
Oh, you already see her. Yay, now we see you also. Hi.
Well, it was sort of funny because I refreshed the page, so I wouldn't, I'm on Firefox. So after I've been on for a while, if I don't refresh the page, I'll instantly start to echo. And you said, oh, Sherry, come on. And I'm thinking, I don't see a seat.
Yeah, but that was because we had it closed for a moment. So now we open it up and you're there. So could you briefly introduce yourself, and also maybe you have a typical leadership dilemma to share with us? So let's start with introducing yourself.
Well, how can I put it? I'm the person who's always in the comments section.
It's mirrored.
Making comments. That I'm a therapist, but I do a lot of coaching. Okay. And I'd always point out to people that I ended up doing business coaching because for 11 years I was a stockbroker. So I understand the business cycle and things of that sort. So I do a podcast and a blog that more or less looks at the psychological side of business. And what are some of the things that you run into? What are some of the things that you have to consider? How do you deal with the difficult partner and things of that sort? But my question in terms of dilemmas relates to a lot of things that men are able to do in terms of being a leader. And Natalie, you may be able to identify with this. For a woman to do the same thing is not viewed in a positive light. And I'm not, focusing in on the rightness or correctness or incorrectness of that. I'm just sort of asking, what are some of the ways that women can project leadership without falling into the trap of being seen as too aggressive? Because that's always a term that, and again, I don't want to sound negative, but that's a term that's applied in a negative sense to a female, but is seen as a positive in terms of sometimes male behavior, because men can be overly aggressive too, but that term is applied a lot more to females. So what are some of the things that a female can do to project leadership without being overly stigmatized? Let's put it like that.
Well, let me ask you a question. Can you think of a female leader that you really liked, that you admire?
That's a good one.
Who comes to mind?
You put me on the spot. And I say that for the simple reason that I spend a lot of time with men. So I'm trying, and I spend a lot of time reading. So this is going to sound strange, but it's the first thing that popped into my head. Joan of Arc.
Oh, okay. And why her?
Joan of Arc. And again, this is going to sound strange. George Sand.
Never heard of that person.
Yes, you have. You've heard of George Sand. George Sand was a French woman who, during the 18th century, she was aristocracy, and women were not allowed to go different places, and it was considered not very good thing to write. So she would masquerade as a man, and she took the pen name. That's why I say, you know who George Sand is. Most people connect her with Chopin because he was one of her many lovers. But I like the idea of being uninhibited, and both of those characters, Joan of Arc and George Sand, were able to do things that you wouldn't necessarily consider as in the sort of female genre, but they were very much feminine.
Okay. And what do you consider feminine about them?
George Sand, that she had a lot of lovers.
Wow. That's not necessarily feminine now, is it?
Well, if nothing else, into her 70s, she was able to attract younger men who, even though they did not visit her, they would correspond with her, and just sort of loved the intoxicating nature of her conversation. And if she wasn't already aristocracy, I think she would have been a courtesan. And Joan of Arc, I always think of her as this girl warrior. And that's what I considered very feminine about her, that, you know, despite the fact that she was leading an army, she was still this girl, you know, and that's what she wanted to project, that she was this girl.
Yeah, but maybe we should also make a start with answering your question. That would be fair.
Yeah, so the seat can be less hot.
So your question originally, for the ones joining in later, was, okay, how as a woman do you deal with these dilemmas around leadership, where you want to be feminine on the one hand, and also all things that we consider to be a good leader? Before we actually answer that, and there's not one answer to that, by the way, but before we answer that, probably you already know that the way we are brought up by parents and society sort of primes us in a certain direction. Like if you're aggressive as a guy, if you behave the exact same way as a woman, you are overly aggressive, right? And
right.
That has a lot to do with standards. So the dilemma that you point out is a dilemma that we run into very often within our coaching with women, because if you are behaving, quote unquote, normal on the scale for what is considered to be normal for men, that's going to be overly aggressive, and all of a sudden you're not so nice woman anymore, whereas you still behave, quote unquote, quite normal if you would have the men's standard. So the dilemma as a woman mostly of the time, especially in leadership, is how to be authentic on the one hand and still be considered a good leader by others. Mm-hmm. Now, ideally, and that's also, I guess, why Natalie's asking for your role models in feminine leadership. As you pointed out, those were the role models who chose to be authentic, feminine, and still be in charge and still be a leader. Now, that's extremely hard. It's way harder, if you ask me, to be a woman in charge than you are in the same position being a man. I have ample examples. Quite recently, I was in the position where I was basically watching somebody saying at the highest level of management, saying very, very crude things about feminine leadership, because somebody pointed out to him, in this particular company, there's not many women, if any, at the top level in management.
Right.
And he says, well, that would have been nice because that's always a better view on the board. I went like, whoa, did you just say that? I mean, and the funny thing is that all the ladies at management level and up, they all went like, yeah, that's just how men are. So, but that's basically the atmosphere that you have to work with at this very moment. Now, most of our exemplary leaders that we use in coaching, trainings, and whatever are either female or very feminine.
Okay.
Because, and this is the paradox that I keep repeating in everyday life in coaching and training. So, female leadership is scientifically, quote unquote, proven better.
Right.
Accidentally, you guys are cheaper.
Yeah.
In the same role.
And do you know why?
Why would that be?
Well, let me sort of speak to that, because that's sort of a pet peeve of mine, that I continually run into women, and I was reading an article in the New York Times a while back, and it indicated part of the problem is that women do not negotiate.
Right.
Yeah, they do not. And I can remember at one point, my boyfriend and this is a while back, I applied for a job and I was going in for the interview and we were going to talk salary. And he says to me, come in at this level. You know, even if they decide to go lower, it's this level is just for a sense of respect. And I would never think of it as that.
Right.
And
you are so right. The number one reason why women get paid less is that they don't ask for more.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You know,
and
go ahead.
It's interesting to find to talk on that also. Okay, what does that actually mean? Because a lot of people I work with say, especially the male guys, say, okay, that's just stupidity on their part, but it's just a definition of what's important in life, basically.
Well, also conditioning too. That
Of course,
yeah, you know, because I call it the disease to please.
Mm-hmm.
So a woman goes into negotiation sort of thinking, well, again, that word aggressive, I don't want to seem too aggressive. You know, because that was initially my thinking until, you know, my boyfriend said, no, you want respect. You know, that I wanted to come in at what I considered a reasonable level, when he was saying, no, you know, you don't necessarily have to be reasonable, but that's how we're sort of programmed.
Yeah,
Right.
it's very hard to negotiate from the stereotype, be a good girl or be a tough guy. I mean, the tough guy, of course, is okay if he takes the strong position and then negotiates until a better position. Whereas being a good girl is going to be a very hard starting point if you believe that to be true for yourself, or if only the other party believes that to be true, then it's very easy to be seen as overly aggressive. Now, again, this is something that feeds directly into the heart of leadership. Leadership is where you decide who you are first. So my advice, I keep repeating to all the executive ladies that I coach, is decide for yourself whether or not you are going to even care what other people think about your behavior, as long as you are quite okay and comfortable with your behavior. And of course, it helps them to, like your boyfriend did, to show them what this looks like from the other party's point of view. And then you can still decide for yourself, okay, I do want to go that way in negotiations. Natalie and I are a married couple, and we are still different in how we deal with negotiations. And that's totally fine, because she has her standards of what she wants from life, and I have my standards from what I want in life. And I have, of course, the quote-unquote luck that I'm a guy. And so if I play hardball in negotiations, people go like, okay, that's quite normal.
Well, and I agree with you. And it has required a certain acceptance on my part. You know, and I hate to use the word authentic, but an acceptance on my part that this is who I am. Mm-hmm. And some people will like it and some people will not. And be willing to accept that. Now, yes, I also have to make myself realize that there's a certain way that I have to approach the different sexes. So, yeah, it's the reality. Perception is reality. So when I'm with women, I try to temper some of my impulses. They're still there, but just not as prominent as they might be with, you know, in a setting where there are more men. But the reality is, my deal is, I only know one direction, and it's coming at you. Yeah.
Interestingly enough, when I started laughing also because I also point out that women actually are in charge in the world. If you look at all the important purchases that people make, especially in heterosexual couples, the women determine whether or not he, quote unquote, is buying that particular car. She either has a veto
or whatever
right,
product.
yeah, or
83% of all buying decisions are at least influenced or made by women.
So a very natural and way for women to lead already for centuries, I believe, is by doing it more indirectly. And of course, if you feel like the direct way works wonders, it's more accepted by others if you do it more indirectly. If you do it in the more feminine way. Now, if you decide you don't want to be feminine per se in that approach, that's fine, of course. But I've seen a lot of shifts in minds when people were like, oh, wait a minute. Yes, it actually is true. My mom always influenced my dad, although everybody thought my dad was the one running the household. Now, in the end, the main decisions were made by mom.
Mm-hmm.
Often she did this out of sight, before or after they got into the showroom buying a car, or before and after they went into the house and decided whether or not to buy it. So a lot of that is very indirect. Now, not everybody's comfortable in that position, but
I'm not. I'm just not. And that, like I said, that's where I have learned that I'll either just be quiet, because I'm not an indirect person. I can't help it. I'm just not. I've learned to temper myself to a certain extent. But and in the past, I've always had to make decisions for myself. So decision making comes easy for me. That, hey, I'm going to try this. If it doesn't work, then I'll at least know it doesn't work. And, and this, that, and the other. I've never had to influence another person in terms of making a decision. So,
but that actually is just broadening your palettes. If you, one of the things we do is basically, like the behavior you just described is what I call dog behavior, compared to cat-like behavior. Meaning, as you said, you have this impulse and then you sort of want to go, and oftentimes you go. This is very much dog-like behavior. If you come home from a long holiday and you have a cat, we are cat owners, they might show up at some point in this blab.
I got a dog, I know.
so when you come home, the first thing a dog would do is run at you and be silly happy because you finally returned, right? A cat will just sit in the corner, maybe even look at you for 2 seconds and then sort of ignore you, and then decide, if ever, to approach you to get some pet or at least get some food. The behavior of cats is more strategic. So what you just mentioned, what we always advise people, it's great to have this drive and this energy and the power to at least have the opportunity to go directly at it and face whatever fight you want to face. But it's also very helpful to broaden the palette by also learning some cat-like skills, like you already mentioned that you've done. Okay, I've learned how to at least not express it fully. Wait for it and see and think on how to best approach this. That's actually a sort of shift from dog-like behavior to more strategic cat-like behavior. And that's something that's useful for most people I've run into aspiring to become more of a leader that people are willing to follow also. And that also means that you will have to sort of choose which battle you will fight. You probably remember the story, Natalie, that you once were told. I wasn't there, but I like the story, so it's best that you tell me on how to become more of an alligator.
Yes. Yes, that relates to leadership as well, because I remember the story being told in a setting where we were discussing mindfulness, but it relates to leadership as well. Because what does an alligator do? Well, by preference, not a lot. It is lying there in the water, in the bushes, and it is just lying there and lying there and lying there. But the animal tends to be, hey, your dog, what's the name of your dog?
Her name is Sunny Girl.
Sunny Girl.
But Sunny Girl is not Sunny. And she spends more time on Blab because she hears the voices and she's wondering what's going on. Yeah, okay.
She thinks the more the merrier. Let's meet those people.
Okay.
Okay, the alligator.
The alligator. Uh-huh.
So it's lying there in the water, enjoying the sun or whatever, and it looks like it is sleeping and not alert, but it is. The minute that some kind of animal that looks like a very nice bite is close enough, what will the alligator do?
Bounce.
Or bounce, or just do like this, right at the right moment. Not sooner, not later. It is there when it needs to be there. One strike, and the animal has a success. So I think that relates to leadership too. You have to be, and that's for me a challenge as well. You know what I'm trying to say, what I'm about to say. You have to be patient. You have to be alert. You have to use all your senses and your gut and your empathy and everything you have within you to be there and to strike when you need to.
And that's probably feeding directly into what you just said, that you learn over time to pick your battles and become more of an alligator, become more of a cat is going to help. And of course, that should not, I can't stress that enough, should not do away with your normal behavior, and you should not feel uncomfortable with that. And that's another dilemma, to balance all that in such a way that you...
Well, I like the description of the of dog versus cat or the alligator, but especially dog versus cat, just from the standpoint that when you make sort of the analogy of the dog, I was thinking about it because I do want to get things done. I want to get to the point. I want to.
Yep.
Yes. I want to get to the point.
I want it now.
I want to get it done, because, I've got a million other things. And yet I can understand the cat or the alligator concept that I in turn have to wait, or at least help the person get to the point where they're willing to listen to what it is that I have to say, rather than pushing them along, so to speak. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I like that approach.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Tanya, tell us a bit about yourself. Maybe you can join us, because you told me that you're very busy at the moment. So I
am. I've got an important call in 25 minutes, so I've got to get ready for that. And I've kind of been listening to your conversation. It's early in the morning here, so I took you in the bathroom while I put my makeup on, and then I lost connection. I couldn't hear what you guys were talking about for that time, and then I had to log out and get back in.
It's early in the morning where you are now. Where are you?
I'm in Australia.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
We're in the Netherlands, and I suppose you're in the USA, Cherry?
Yes,
okay.
Florida.
So good morning to you, Tanya.
Good evening to you. Good afternoon to you. So, and I just read the heading, so it might even be off the subject a bit, but it's the subject of leadership. Mm-hmm. And I was listening to Cherry or Sherry?
Sherry. The wine, Sherry. Not the fruit.
Right.
Oh, not Cherry? Sherry. Okay, sorry.
Sherry about respect. And so in leadership, we come from the data analytics space of leadership, okay? Where we designed ICON 4, which is a part of the evaluation tool, is identifying what it is that a leader needs to pick up on in terms of their skills based on the people they're leading right here and now, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like real time. This is your situation. These are the people. These are the leadership skills that you need to develop to inspire and motivate them. If you change teams, you might learn different skills, right? Because it depends on what the team wants from you. And I think that from a leadership development space, I think we're making it hard for leaders to develop because we haven't actually picked up what skills they need to develop to motivate their team right now. And there's a bit of an assumption placed on what they need to develop, and it's unfair to leaders.
Well, let me check if I understand your question. Are you saying that you think that a leader should be able to lead any team?
If the company has isolated the skill that they need to develop, then yes.
Okay, because Sherry told us about being authentic, so that might lead to a dilemma indeed. We're talking about leadership dilemmas. So can a company ask of you to adapt to whatever the situation asks of you? Would that make you an authentic, real, effective leader?
Yeah, it will make you authentic with extra skill sets that you can pull on.
So you think that any person can develop any skill?
Yes.
Okay.
Somebody is in disagreement.
Someone doesn't agree. Tell us, Sherry.
Let's provide an example.
Okay.
No, because I have one that, but go ahead. I want to hear yours.
We're listening first, Sherry.
Sorry, hold on. It's early morning. What's I'm on a call? Am I in the bus? Yeah, that's the number of the party. What? Exactly. And have you got a name? No. So can you get that to me? Yeah. Sorry.
No problem.
Let's go.
Your example. I'm curious.
Okay. So say, for example, you've got a leader whose natural strengths is in structures, processes, tasks. So they really drive their team to keep on task, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the team, you go out and the team are going, you know what? I experience my leader doing that all the time. But what I want my leader to do is build collaboration, right? I don't want to have these rules and regulations. I know what I'm supposed to be doing. I know the goals, but I need collaboration. So what we do, we identify, what do you desire from your leader? What do you experience? So we pulled up, sorry.
Someone wants to have a Skype call.
I know. That one skill that they need to master is building collaboration with their team, right? And that might be by having meetings, gathering consensus, seeking other people's points of view. So we're going to teach them the skills of just having meetings, getting different information from everyone, asking for people's opinion, which will actually drive towards collaboration. So we're not asking them to change their personality, right? Not at all. We are just asking for them to develop a skill. So it's the way you kind of talk to leaders. Because if we talk to them and say, no, be authentic, you are a leader who is good at rules and regulations, then for that leader to be effective, you could only put that leader with people who want rules and regulations. Otherwise, they disengage.
Or let that leader be in charge of processes or development or whatever that needs to be very rigidly structured.
Yeah, but
would you appoint such a leader to an innovation task, for instance? Would you think that leader would be the most the right person to do that?
No, I would choose someone who's very investigative, risk taker, into change, stuff like that. Right? But the fact is, unless a company is going to shift their whole leadership team around, which would be a nightmare, they do have leaders in teams and they're not engaging them. That is why employee engagement levels are low, right? Because we're saying to leaders, you lead based on your strengths and what's authentic to you. And that's fine if you're an employee, right, working with strengths. But if you're a leader, your job is to motivate and inspire the team that you actually are reporting to. Otherwise, you're not going to get the most out of your team.
That's
Might get the
right.
most,
But
you're not going to get the
I
most.
think that you should work from your strength as a leader, especially as well. Because I have been in such a position where I was responsible for a team of over 20 people. And I found it very, very hard when I found out that those people wanted me to be a very directive leader.
Yeah.
I'm not. I'm more of the engaging, coaching, motivating type. So then I thought, okay, will I adapt to what those people want me to be? And that will mean that about 75% time I will be acting in a way that isn't really me. I am adapting 75% of my time. And then I decided, no, then I will not be the person leading this team anymore, because I will get fatigued.
Sure. Do you think you can learn skills, competences? Don't change your personality. You are who you are, right? You are the leader you are. But do you think you can learn certain skills and certain leadership skills that support directive leadership?
Yes, I can. And I am willing to act like that, but not 75% of my time. Would I have 3 people in the team that are more junior and that would need more assistance or direction or whatever? No problem. But when it's about 75% of the people and of the time, it's too much for me.
Then that would indicate you're in the wrong job. You're in that wrong team.
Right.
You would need to go to another team.
I think
was my conclusion.
And
as well.
that's one of the key leadership questions to ask. Is am I the one to lead this particular team in this particular moment? And also a very typical question to ask. Okay, would it be good for all people involved to even try and develop? Knowing that I currently can't handle this, the most natural answer that comes to me from the point of leadership is where you go, no, I should not do that, and basically have other people suffer as a consequence until the moment I get to the right level.
Yeah,
but I totally agree with you that you can. I think we are not in disagreement with anybody that you can develop yourself, if wanted, as a leader in other directions, making you more, which is a very popular term these days, a T-shaped leader, where you have a strong preference for the one. For example, Natalie says hers is coaching-oriented leadership, whereas other people have a more directive-oriented leadership. But you can, of course, broaden all the, on top of your in-depth leadership preference, broaden your leadership styles that you can handle and can use to appeal to and influence a broader set of people and broader set of teams.
Yeah, sorry.
Sherry is trying.
You are waiting.
I was doing stuff with the dog and I muted myself.
So tell us, what are your thoughts?
But see, my example, that I think you can become skilled or sort of broaden your palette. But I think certain types of leaders are required for certain types of situations.
Right.
A while back, there was this experimental program that I was hired for. And what the basis against which they hired me was that they wanted someone who was very task-oriented, who could get this set up, get it rolling, and make it work. But in reality, the group, the organization worked from a very process-focused, getting together, everybody meeting, everybody liking everybody, nobody sort of did more to make anybody else feel lesser or whatever. And it caused tremendous strain. So I do believe, like I said, that you can broaden your palette. And even though I tend to be very task-centered, I sort of like the concept of agile management, where I sort of say, this is what I want done. You guys go off and, I don't care, as long as you don't murder anybody, you get it done. But some people do not function well under that type of situation. That sort of like Natalie was saying, they want someone there to tell them all the time, okay, you finish this step, go to the next step. And that's wearing on some people. And I know it would be me, but that's why I think, yes, you can help a person broaden their palette, but you also have to take into consideration the type of leadership for the task at hand.
That's what it has to be. Leadership development should be linked to the team in which the person is leading and the company's goals and outcomes.
But see, too often what happens is, for a perfect example, I know, like I said, 11 years as a stockbroker, I've seen people, the assumption is, if you know your job, then you will be a good leader. And a subject matter expert is not necessarily a good leader. Yes, you may know the subject, but the assumption is made, oh, this person knows the subject, they'll be able to lead the team. No, they may not be.
Yeah, actually, I can tell you that the exact opposite is.
Sorry,
okay.
I've really got to go.
Thank you for joining us. Have a great day.
For your phone call. Hope to see you again.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Hi, Austin. Would you like to jump in? No. Tell us.
Oh, I love somebody. I'm a dog. Roof, roof.
Yes, I'm so curious. Oh, there he is. So, Austin, why are you a dog?
Because I love dogs. I have no idea what the difference is in leadership.
I
believe I'm part Burmese mountain dog because I think they're adorable as puppies, and they're like big and fluffy, and they just flop around. And I think that is the best dog in the whole world.
And let me ask you first, where are you from? Where are you right now?
Right now, I am in New York City, in Williamsburg, Brooklyn.
Wow.
But I just found out today that I'm actually going to be headed out to Santa Barbara, California.
Wow.
No,
relocating.
That's a shift.
Relocating.
Yeah.
Wow. To another time zone. Another coast,
Yeah, definitely.
actually.
Actually, 3.
3 time zones.
Yeah, it's 8 months. Yeah, it's like wow.
Wait, what? Time zones? Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm moving 3 time zones. Sorry, brain's catching up.
So what are you doing for a living? Why are you relocated?
So I run the business and lifestyle blog, dscience.co. I'm a social media consultant and predominantly Periscope. That's what I really enjoy. My life partner and business partner just got an opportunity to basically be the marketing director for a personal brand that is a lady making $10 million a year, and she's going to be working right underneath her. So it's a huge opportunity to hang out with a millionaire, which is always fun. So she's going to go do that, and then I'm going to go with her because I don't necessarily need to be here. It's an online business.
So she's the leader now in this.
And you're actually behaving like a very loyal dog.
Yes,
Good
you
on you.
are a dog.
You walked into that.
Oh, I am.
Welcome to.
I am.
To the
She's
dog.
trained me well.
So Sherry, would you be willing to explain, Austin, the difference between a cat and a dog leader?
Okay. Well, in terms of my understanding, the dog basically is, sort of like when you come home, the dog jumps at you, they, pet me, I like you, let's get this done, rub my ears. And whereas in terms of getting your attention.
Very, very nicely.
So the dog leader is constantly sort of task centered, okay, and looking to get something done. Whereas the cat leader sort of, I won't say hangs back a little bit and sort of surveys the territory in terms of either allocating resources or interactions, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Does it make a little bit more sense now?
Sure.
The cat person is more strategic, and the dog person is task oriented.
Yeah, jumping at every opportunity to play. Oh, look at that.
Oh, there he is.
Yeah.
Someone
yeah.
wants
Well,
to
I mean-
meet you. Hi.
Well,
And his name is DJ, short for Don Juan.
that's good. Well, off camera, I've been secretly throwing these.
Up to your dog.
Yeah, and she's eating them faster and faster.
So, Austin, do you still think you're a dog when you hear this?
Well, if we're going by these descriptions, I jumped in right away. I think that kind of fully puts me as a dog, which if my lady heard me say that, she'd have a few choice comments about me calling myself a dog.
Now you have a good story when you come home.
Oh, I have many of those. But yeah, sure. With those descriptions, I'm very much task-oriented, getting things done. You know, we all are strategic thinkers. We're all in an innovative platform for sure. But my solution when there's not enough resources, go sell more product, make more resources, and get more stuff done.
Let's
so
do
I'm totally a dog.
Yeah.
Right.
And interestingly, the original title of this blab was on leadership and dilemmas, and you faced a dilemma and very dog-like. You decided, let's go and cut to the chase and go left, meaning, okay, I'm going to move into that other time zone.
Yeah.
This is probably how you normally deal with dilemmas, right? You just make a decision and go.
Yeah. So something. Now I'm 28, so I'm not, Jack Dorsey or a billionaire CEO. But what I've learned is in business, I don't really think there is a right and a wrong, because even when you're wrong, there's something to learn from it. I think it's more making a decision, trusting your gut, sticking to it, and then executing as fast as possible and just getting more stuff done. And then looking at the market, looking at your results you've generated, and learning from there and making a new decision. In boxing, it's called counter-punching. In football, it's called halftime teams that come back after they've gotten obliterated and then come back and destroy. It's just reacting to the market, but being fast. So that's the way I look at it.
And
You're still a dog, Austin. You're still a dog.
It's a very good example, actually. I also every now and then teach in MBA programs, and I try to get people from jobs that pay wages to get to understand a little bit about entrepreneurship. And they tell me that's very much similar to what you tell us in the leadership courses that you teach us. And yes, because entrepreneurship is very much about dog-style leadership. As you said, it's okay to fail in entrepreneurship, but you better fail fast. So you better go after that ball, find out you can't catch it, find yourself another ball. And it doesn't really work in a startup company environment or in entrepreneurship environment to be a very cat-like leader. Normally, you only find those when you have a product that's viable and feasible and starts making profit. Then you find yourself a cat-like leader to run the show, and you move on to your next startup project. Sound familiar, right?
And in large corporate corporate companies, I think.
Or a middle level company versus that's the startup, mid level, and then the old stuff. How can I put it? I want to say old.
Traditional.
Well, there's a progression that you move from your startup, old line. That's it. The startup, the mid-level, and then the old line company that's been around for a while is very well established. They aren't necessarily looking for growth. The emphasis is more on profitability, that type of thing. That's why I say old line.
Okay.
Mhm.
Then the MBA people come in.
Yeah, the
Like,
suit.
Like me. But actually, I just got my MBA to find out how these people are weird compared to my world, and then now I better understand them.
I'm gonna run. I got a meeting to go to, but it was
Thanks
nice
for
jumping
jumping
in.
in.
Saying hi.
Nice to meet you. Bye.
Woof!
Good luck. Woof, woof.
Nice to meet you too.
Bye-bye.
Woof.
Bye.
Well,
So,
I
would
too have to
anybody
be-
else like to jump in? Icon?
Icon, please join and tell us about your double leadership question. Feel free. Don't be shy, or be shy and jump in
Yay.
anyway.
Are we pronouncing your name correctly? Is it Icon? Hi?
Yeah, it's pronounced Ayhan.
Icon. Okay, where are you from?
I'm from Azerbaijan.
Oh, wow.
It's the
Never
next
met anybody from that country before, so an extra hello.
Yeah, it's between the Russian and Iran, the next to Turkey, Caspian Sea, yeah, Caucasian region.
So, welcome. Tell
welcome.
us about your dilemma.
Actually, I just heard some quiz from your notes, so this topic is similar to me because even today we have a 4 hours debate about leadership,
All
how
right.
companies begin entrepreneurship, and
In
my question is,
university?
yeah, if there's like two leaders in the same group, for example, in the company or some little groups, so what if their action affects the group making decisions?
The interaction between the two, you mean?
Yeah. For example, we have a member of 10 member of the group, and there's a two leader, and their decision is not so similar, and each of them like trying to get their decision, not like our group's decisions.
Yeah, that very much depends on culture. If I read the culture correctly where you're from, it's quite different from the culture that Natalie and I are both in the Netherlands, where it's even worse. We don't have one leader. Yes, we have one leader on paper, but everybody is the equal of the leader in the Netherlands by definition. So we have one official leader, and everybody else thinks they have the same level of say, which in practice actually holds most of the time. So,
And you have informal leaders.
yes,
Yes.
yes, but informal leaders work better in less hierarchical cultures than in very hierarchical cultures. So, am I correct to assume that your culture is a bit more hierarchical?
Actually, there's like private and the governmental sector, as you know, but in the governmental sector, they're so strict for the workers, and they didn't accept for the leaders. If I am chief, okay, I'm chief. There's no leader. But
Okay, and
private sector, like a British Petroleum or the Sokar or oil companies or PwC, and in their companies, yeah, there's a lot of leaders, so they can help the group executive CEO or someone else. Yeah.
Mhm.
And if you don't agree with what the official leader says, can you say
Actually,
that in
yeah.
public where other people are as
Actually,
well?
the result is a fire. Yeah,
You get fired.
You get fired, really? Oh
Well,
my God.
Yes.
And
Sherry, you must have been fired in Azerbaijan. That's a couple of times.
And I think part of what Kayhan is saying, though, is where, and correct me if I'm wrong, because part of what I'm hearing is that we need to be moving in one direction, but there's like warring factions. Because he said, we're in a group, excuse me, and there's two people and there's two leaders. Mm-hmm. So we can't move forward because we don't know which leader to follow.
Right.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Yeah, it's right, definitely. And
you're not supposed to ask questions about that or say that you don't agree, because then we'll get fired. That's what you said as well, right?
Yeah. In the private, no, but in the governmental could be, because in the governmental sectors there's a mission for our company. For example, like some
if somebody asks us to join in on such a situation, to consult with them on this is what my very provocative approach would be. I would explain to these leaders, you should realize you are mom and dad, and mom and dad should be on the same level all the time. Because if mom and dad are not on the same level, the kids are going to get lost, are going to have their own way, and the whole household will be a big mess. So this is the first step. I would approach being hired as a consultant, which is what we often do, and then say, okay, you should realize this is what you're doing, especially in a hierarchical setting where people are not going to tell these two people you're messing this up just because you're not on the same page. So step one for proper leadership, and this is very hard to come by often, proper leadership is where the leaders recognize no matter what happens, we should be on the same page. So yes, it will hurt any group that has two leaders who do not, for whatever reason, conclude that themselves. It's very hard if you're a member of that group to subtly get people to that conclusion themselves. So it's very useful to have other people involved to nicely and privately tell them, so this is not going to work, because you will see this over and over again. Whenever two leaders have the final say and they say different things, nothing is really going to happen but frustration amongst the team members.
But and something else to consider as well, because if you, like you were saying, if you're a member of that team, and if you question something, then it sort of comes down to, well, if you're not with me, you're with him. Mm-hmm. You know that's one. And then, is there a way to go to someone who is higher than the two warring factions? Because in a lot of instances like that, where there are two warring factions, they are going to want to hear from the people below them. And it puts the people below them sort of in a bad situation of, again, if you're not with me, then you're with him. And then, so there might, I was going to say an anonymous letter to someone above those people, because the two warring people will probably listen to someone above them as opposed to someone below them.
Yeah,
right.
Especially in that hierarchical setting, it's the best way to go and have somebody have that finals. And this is how we also solve problems when we have two people on a different level. And I experienced this quite recently in a team that I'm running, where people were running into trouble. One was saying A, the other was saying not A, and then they had to have it solved. So I said, okay, this is how we're going to solve it. If you can't fix this yourself, we're going to go the old mom and dad route. The manager of this particular person that says A is going to meet up with this person and with the manager and the other not A person, and we'll just get to a solution. This is, again, an example where you have to have leadership, where the leaders basically decide, okay, we have to come to a conclusion so as to move forward. And they should agree on that, even if they, for whatever reason, not fully like the solution. Because if they are not on the same level, again, the fighting amongst the A and not A person is going to continue all over. And that's something that's really hard, because you will have to, and in a leader position, will have to repeat this over and over. I'll have to repeat this over and over in this particular team setting.
Mm-hmm.
Does this answer your question? I'm sorry. What's your name again? Ihan. Okay.
Yeah, it's Ihan or.
So
it's a bit difficult for me. Sorry.
So you had a 4 hours debate on this. What was your conclusion?
We also have a debate on the separating the groups, because in one example, our teachers say that, in example, there's one group and there's a two leader, and each of them try to collect the people from the group to themselves. Mm-hmm. So
that's
first
about the two part.
and it brings like atoms and from the chemistry, there's the atom like attracting the molecules over it, side of it, and they makes the two groups, and the result of that, the group divided into two parts. And also the emotions also affect the leadership and the relation between leaders and the members. And if one of the members have like problems in their life, so it's also affect the leaders to making decisions. So all of them.
Yeah, but did you also cover the problem with that? Because if you divide up a team, you will, on the one hand, solve the short-run problem, but you will still have the long-run problem where there's going to be fighting amongst those teams, because it will create even more so and more physically a we and she, or we and they, sorry.
Well, I don't know, but I'm thinking rather Machiavellian here, and it really sort of boils down to, ultimately, whether they like it or not, someone has to go, and that's the Machiavellian part, because it does, because they've gotten off the main point, which is the task, and now the emphasis is on power and control. So it's almost like they're locked in a fight to the death, to the detriment of the team. And at some point, either someone above them has to say something or make a decision, like you said, maybe to break the groups up, and you guys go off and you guys go. But until, well, let me put it this way. Humans are pack animals. Humans are pack animals, okay? So in a pack, there is not, or there are not two leaders. There are not two leaders. So ultimately, the pack is going to have to go off in one direction or the other. In this fight to the death, because once you get into power, the task becomes secondary, in my humble opinion.
Yeah. There is this other option though, which we haven't explored yet, which is, and it's a very rare thing, but it could be this particular situation. The very rare thing is that the two leaders who are fighting haven't found common ground yet. So if you have not just a higher positioned person, you can also have a higher ground that you discover together. Now, this is, as I said, this is not very common to happen. Now, ideally, there are teams with two leaders that work, but you need two totally different kind of leaders. You need one, as Sherry says, the very strong, I want to be the leader, I want to be in charge, I'm going to be into, and I will lead the way. And you will need, we call that in leadership theory, we call it a number one leader.
Okay.
Ideally, you have somebody who supports a number one leader who doesn't even want to be the number one leader, and we call this person, guess what, a number two leader. He or she is very much a servant leader towards the number one leader, who could be, as you nicely pointed out, the leader of the pack. And the other one is going to be very supportive, and very often this is more of a soft, more feminine approach to leadership that he or she will have, whereas the alpha male-like leadership, of course, is very much associated with male leadership. And again, that doesn't mean that it has to be a male or female. I've known quite some number one female leaders as well as number two guys. But
I think Ahan's point is that there are two number ones, not a number one and not a number two. There are two number ones, and that's why I go back to the fight to the death.
But sometimes, the solution for that, in our debates, that chief of the company fired one of the leader from the group, for democratic way, like selection process. And the members selected one leader for them, and the another leader is going up. And then this makes the decision making faster than the normally, because the two leaders also affected, like getting later decision making, and its result will be not fine for the company as well.
Yeah.
So what do you think, Alana? Is it a good way to hire the one of the leaders?
Well, it's not really. I think you mean fire one, right? So you put one out of the company. Now, this is far from ideal, and very often it will not work very well, because if you have a number one leader that stays, this person will go, so I won, so it's going to be my way all the time. So it's going to be really hard to have this person keep his, often the guy is a guy, keep his or her feet on the ground. So that will basically tell this person, even if not the intention of the party who fires the other person, this person might even be fed into believing I'm the real king here and I can do whatever I want. So I would often suggest fire both of them, find a new one, or find a way to make it work. Not very polite, not very nice, but that's probably more effective if you look at a team. But again, this might be quite different in areas where you have very hierarchical teams, because I can imagine that over there you like very strong number one bosses, whereas, for example, in our quote-unquote soft, rather feminine culture in the Netherlands, we don't really like bosses like that.
But he's also saying it's government.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
It's government. So that's a whole nother aspect.
Of course, yeah.
And I don't know, but I've been in that situation where it was a fight to the death, and the other person, sabotaged, and that the task was secondary. The primary concern was power or position, and the other person will sabotage to the detriment of the goal until one leader is established. And like you said, that once it was done, the other person sort of sat back and said, yes, now I'm in control. And in a sense, you hate to say it, but once that was settled, then at least the group could return to focusing on the goal.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say, indeed. When you are fighting or in a power struggle or whatever, I think a lot of energy goes to that. Even for the people not in the struggle itself, but the people who are reporting to the people who are in the struggle. So when you are task-oriented, like you say you are, Sherry, you will not like this, because there will not be a lot of tasks actually done, because people are worried or distracted or angry or whatever.
Or just trying to keep their head down until the dust settles.
Right.
Until somebody is caught at the jugular and gone. And that happened to me. That because like they said, that agency that I worked at, that there was this fight to the death.
Wow.
And the only way to clear it up was for me to leave, even though I was the person who could take them from point A to point B. That in the fight to the death, the person who more or less went along with the whole process, we are friends, we're this, we're that, won. But ultimately, the experimental program collapsed because there was nobody like me there. But I hate to say it, but that's the natural selection. That's the natural selection.
Okay, I see that we are
running out of time.
running out of time. But I think it's still very interesting. I hope you do as well. So would you like to?
Yeah, I think you're going to say something about our leadership challenge.
Right.
But before we do that, I want to address one thing that you just mentioned. One thing that might be useful or at least interesting. You mentioned something. It's government that's going to be different, and you're totally right. Now, this is the rule I sort of came up with, and I want to check it and run it by you. What I found is that power play, as you mentioned, becomes more and more important. Power play and politics becomes more important when the pay is lower. And it's even worse when there's no pay at all, like in voluntary organizations or idealistic organizations. There you see more power play, more heated debates. So if it's commercial, where the pay is nice and good, you will see it's more of a money play first, and there's also some power and politics involved. When you get to the governmental level, where the pay is okay or sometimes even quite good, but power and politics become more important. Then you go into the area where there's hardly any pay, if any pay. For example, if you have a tennis club that's run by its volunteers, you will see people have hefty debates about basically nothing, because there's no money at play anymore, but just egos, power, and stuff like that. So it's always very interesting to keep that in mind. So what's going on here? And I can predict, I believe, based on what I just said, and my experience with that and checking that with people over and over again, is that when you get into a governmental environment, you should become very much aware, maybe somewhat more cat-like, sorry, Sherry, in being able to survive right there. A good example is that currently I'm an interim manager in a big governmental institution where it's all politics mostly. Officially, I'm an interim manager on online innovation. It's not the technology that's hard in such a company. It's getting all the people in this very huge organization to get along and go along and move forward. And this is something you probably have experienced yourself in government. Like, okay, it's more the change management aspect and leadership and getting people on board and keeping them on board than the other stuff that people think that I'm doing. People think, oh, you're very much into technology. I said, yes, I know something about it, but it's not important there. It's if I have to choose between technology knowledge and being able to influence people and read the politics and read the power dynamics and be cat-like, because my God, without being cat-like, you're not going to survive a day. I see people being dogs and basically dying in those kinds of organizations, especially in times like these. So it's good to know that when you are in certain areas, you should also focus your alligator, as we talked also on that earlier, alligator pick of what battle to go for and what battles to just ignore and avoid. It's going to be more important in those lower pay, more politics-oriented environments.
Well, this was a lower pay, but sort of like what Natalie was saying, it just reached a point where the amount of energy that I was expending, it wasn't worth it. Mm. And I wasn't pushed out. I basically said, enough.
Right.
And
good for you, Sherry.
Yeah, I just said enough. Well, and
that's personal leadership, Yeah,
and the thing that got me was that from the moment I said enough, it was as if this weight had been lifted from me. Because, again, being the task-oriented person, I was running around, working unbelievable hours in terms of keeping this program going, and sort of had taken it upon myself to hold it up, and just reached the point where, in terms of, again, the energy that it required on my part, it was no longer worth it. Mm-hmm. And I've never regretted it. In fact, I was pretty happy.
Right. And thank you for this nice bridge. Can I say that?
Yeah.
In English as well. Because our next blab. Yeah. Oh, now you hear me. Okay.
Yes.
I couldn't hear myself for a minute, but okay. Our next blab is in. I put it in the chat. Will be about sure ways to grow as a leader. So I think you found one, Sherry. To be very mindful, to be aware of your level of energy, for instance, and to make decisions from that.
Right.
And we will be talking more about this topic of growing, sure ways to grow as a leader. So we would like you to attend that one as well. Just click on the URL and let us know that you will be there, and jump in next time again.
And for anybody you know that wants to, and it could be you or anybody else that wants to, free of charge. We are Dutch, right? So we like to do stuff for free every now and then as well. Free of charge, we're going to host what we call the 30-day leadership challenge.
The URL is in the chat bar as well.
And that's going to basically help you grow some habits and try some stuff out that grows leadership. And if not for you, feel free to invite anybody else to join in there. It's based on the program I also ran in the MBA program I just mentioned. It's going to be big fun, but most importantly, it's also going to be hopefully help people understand hidden treasures in leadership, like, for example, discipline is at the core of it. And we'll help you grow that in a way that suits you, although it might be in a surprising way. I hope you got curious by that.
So thank you for sharing your LinkedIn profile, Akhar. Did I say it?
Ayhan.
Ayhan. Work on that.
Yeah.
And yes, connect with us on whatever social media platform you like. We are on LinkedIn as well. And yeah, all the links are in the chat bar right now. So
Right.
And let us know how we can be of whatever help, because Sherry, we have to discuss how we will manage your own blab, right?
Yes, right. Well,
so let me say bye-bye for now and